The metal doors of a New York federal courtroom slam shut. A dozen cameras flash at once, their bursts slicing through the silence like lightning. In the center of it all stands Ilya Lichtenstein, pale, motionless, his wrists bound in cold steel. Beside him, Heather Morgan, dressed in a beige prison uniform, stares straight ahead. The same woman who once rapped under the name Razlakan, posting quirky videos about entrepreneurship, now faces a jury for laundering billions in stolen Bitcoin. Outside, the air hums with disbelief. Reporters whisper the same staggering figure: 119,754 Bitcoins. The prosecutor's voice echoes through the courtroom. This isn't just a hack. This is one of the largest financial thefts in history. Heather lowers her eyes. Ilya's jaw tightens. For years, they lived quietly coding, investing, blending into New York's digital elite. No one suspected a thing. But how did two seemingly ordinary tech entrepreneurs become the masterminds behind one of the biggest crypto crimes ever uncovered? Before the headlines, before the arrests, Ilya Lichtenstein and Heather Morgan were another pair of ambitious millennials chasing digital gold in the early days of crypto. Ilya was born in Russia and raised in the United States, a quiet, analytical child fascinated by logic puzzles and programming. He wasn't the archetype of a criminal prodigy. He was the kind of kid who stayed up past midnight tinkering with code, building bots, and studying cryptography forums for fun. After graduating from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, he stepped into Silicon Valley's startup scene, a world fueled by caffeine, ambition, and dreams of disruption. Heather Morgan came from a different orbit. Born in Oregon, she studied economics at UC Davis, worked in finance, and developed a knack for self-promotion. She wrote for Forbes, offering advice on entrepreneurship and security irony that would soon turn bitter. She also created a rap persona, Razlakan, performing in glittering outfits under neon lights. To her followers, she was eccentric, daring, a creative rebel living life on her own terms. When Heather met Ilya in New York's tech circuit, their chemistry was immediate brains meeting bravado. Together, they built a life anchored in startup culture, pitch decks, meetups, crypto wallets, and endless talk of financial freedom. By 2016, the cryptocurrency world had exploded. Bitcoin had become the new frontier, decentralized, untouchable, and unregulated. Exchanges like Bitfinex were handling millions daily. It was a digital gold rush, and the rules were still being written. Behind that glittering promise lay vulnerabilities, lines of code that could open doors for anyone with enough skill and nerve to exploit them. Ilya, ever the strategist, began exploring that gray territory between legality and opportunity. The idea wasn't to hack for fame or ideology, it was about control. In the blockchain universe, whoever controlled the keys controlled the fortune. When Bitfinex was breached in August 2016, it sent shockwaves through the crypto world. Nearly 120,000 bitcoins vanished into the digital void. At the time, few suspected who was behind it. The stolen coins were scattered across hundreds of wallets, buried under layers of obfuscation. And as the world debated security flaws and systemic risks, Ilya and Heather quietly carried on traveling, investing, building companies, posting motivational content online. They didn't live like fugitives. They lived like visionaries. For nearly 6 years, the Bitfinex heist remained one of cryptocurrency's greatest mysteries, a phantom theft worth billions that no one could trace. The blockchain recorded every move, but behind the transparency of numbers lay total anonymity. To investigators, it was like chasing ghosts through glass. At the center of the case was a single digital trail, 2,000 transactions that moved stolen Bitcoin through a labyrinth of wallets, tumblers, and darknet exchanges. Every few months, a small amount would resurface. A few hundred coins laundered here, a few thousand shifted there. It was deliberate, methodical, almost surgical. Whoever was behind it wasn't reckless, they were patient. The Department of Justice's Cybercrime Task Force began to map those flows. Using blockchain analytics, they noticed something curious. A few of the laundered coins ended up in accounts tied to ordinary email addresses, names used for food delivery, gift cards, even cloud storage subscriptions. Those details cracked open the door. One of those email accounts led to Ilya Lichtenstein. The transaction logs revealed patterns consistent with the Bitfinex wallet movements. When investigators dug deeper, they discovered encrypted files in his cloud storage, one of which contained a spreadsheet with thousands of wallet addresses and private keys. Meanwhile, Heather Morgan's online persona had drawn its own attention. Her public life as Razlakan, the self-proclaimed crocodile of Wall Street, became a strange juxtaposition to the secrecy of the hack. In videos, she wore gold capes and sunglasses, rapping about wealth, crypto, and bad bitches with good ideas. It was eccentric, but it made her memorable and traceable. In January 2022, federal agents quietly began surveillance. The couple lived in a modest Manhattan apartment filled with computers, storage drives, and sealed envelopes marked with Bitcoin addresses. For months, the FBI and IRS Criminal Investigations Unit observed every move, compiling evidence. The final trigger came when agents traced one of Ilya's wallets to a KYC-verified exchange account. Within hours, they obtained a search warrant. The 8th of February 2022 dawn, agents in tactical gear surrounded the building. Ilya opened the door in pajamas. Heather stood frozen, still clutching her phone. Inside, investigators found hardware wallets taped under tables, cash hidden in books, and dozens of encrypted files. In one folder named Passwords, they found access credentials to the wallets containing nearly the entire stolen cash, 94,000 bitcoins worth over $3.6 billion. As the coins were seized, headlines exploded. Billion-dollar Bitcoin seized in largest DOJ crypto case ever. To the public, it was shocking. To investigators, it was surreal, the kind of case they might never see again. The evidence was irrefutable. Ilya's spreadsheets, transaction records, and the couple's purchase history, linking stolen funds to luxury items and gold coins. For years, they had hidden in plain sight, believing encryption and decentralization would protect them. But in the end, it was the smallest digital footprint, a single reused email address that brought them down. The myth of perfect anonymity had shattered. The courtroom was packed long before the hearing began. A swirl of reporters, crypto investors, and curious onlookers filled every bench, eager to witness the unmasking of two people who had outsmarted one of the largest exchanges in the world. Heather Morgan and Ilya Lichtenstein entered in silence. Gone were the eccentric outfits and online bravado. He wore a plain gray suit, his posture tense but composed. She appeared subdued, her once flamboyant energy replaced by exhaustion. The prosecution opened with a chilling summary. This was not an impulsive act. It was a 7-year conspiracy of concealment, a deliberate effort to launder $4.5 billion in stolen cryptocurrency through the shadows of the internet. They displayed the spreadsheet found on Ilya's cloud account wallet addresses, access keys, notes on laundering strategies, even timestamps matching Bitfinex's stolen transfers. Each slide tightened the air in the room. Then came the forensics experts, explaining how the blockchain once hailed as untraceable became their best witness. The chain remembers everything, one analyst testified. You can hide your name but not your transactions. Heather's defense attempted to create distance. Her lawyer argued she had been manipulated, a creative partner, unaware of the true scope of her husband's crimes. They portrayed her as eccentric, naive, drawn into Ilya's secret world without understanding it. But prosecutors countered with damning evidence. Chat logs where she discussed cleaning the coins, and her purchase of gold coins using wallets linked to the stolen Bitcoin. Throughout the proceedings, Ilya maintained composure, occasionally whispering to his attorney but never betraying emotion. The pair eventually entered plea agreements in August 2023, admitting guilt to conspiracy to commit money laundering. It was a strategic surrender, the evidence was simply overwhelming. On the 14th of November 2024, Judge Colleen McMahon delivered the verdict in a hushed courtroom. This was a crime born not of need but of greed, executed with technical brilliance but moral blindness. She sentenced Ilya Lichtenstein to 5 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. Heather Morgan received 18 months. Both were ordered to forfeit billions in cryptocurrency recovered by the government, one of the largest asset seizures in U.S. history. When the sentence was read, Heather's hands trembled slightly. Ilya turned toward her, eyes steady, as marshals prepared to escort them out. Outside, the world debated what the case meant. The illusion of crypto anonymity shattered, the rise of digital forensics, and the fall of a couple once seen as symbols of innovation. As cameras flashed, the door closed behind them, ending a saga that began with ambition and ended in betrayal of trust, code, and conscience. The world moved on. But the shadow of the Bitfinex hack lingered like a watermark on the history of cryptocurrency. For years, it had embodied both the promise and peril of decentralization, freedom without oversight, wealth without accountability. When Ilya Lichtenstein entered prison in late 2024, the headlines began to fade. He was transferred to a low-security facility, where the rhythm of confinement replaced the algorithmic chase that had once defined his life. There, surrounded by steel and silence, he reportedly spent his days teaching coding classes to other inmates, the irony not lost on anyone who followed the story. Heather Morgan emerged from her shorter sentence in 2026 to a world still unsure how to perceive her part. Cautionary tale. Part curiosity. Some of her old rap videos resurfaced, dissected frame by frame, each lyric reinterpreted as a confession in disguise. Yet others saw her as the embodiment of a generation's blurred boundaries between hustle culture, performative success, and moral collapse. The crypto world itself changed. Exchanges adopted stricter verification protocols. Law enforcement embraced blockchain forensics, turning the same transparency once used for crime into a weapon for justice. Governments began to view crypto less as a libertarian experiment and more as a financial system demanding regulation. But beyond the policy shifts, the story carried something deeper, a human question. How far can ambition stretch before it fractures into deceit? Ilya and Heather had everything their world valued: intelligence, innovation, and a platform. Yet they reached for something more: control, certainty, perhaps even immortality in a digital sense. And in doing so, they left behind a paradox. Proof that even in a system built on anonymity, every move leaves a trace. The blockchain, after all, forgets nothing. And as the seized bitcoins remain locked in government wallets, silent, inert, untouched, they serve as both evidence and elegy. A fortune created from code. Lost to greed. Recovered by transparency. The story of Ilya Lichtenstein and Heather Morgan ends not with disappearance, but exposure.